Hello and welcome to the sixth and final episode of Series 1 of Women Who Power Lunch, which is part of the All Me Power Lunch series, which is brought to you by the All Me podcast. Just visit your favorite podcast platform and type in Taylor Hooton, and you will have access to all of our wonderful episodes where we discuss all things appearance and performance enhancing substances related. Like to introduce at this time all of our THF staff. I am Amy Wagner, the Director of Marketing and Development. I'd like to introduce you to our President, Donald Hooton. Donald will also be assisting you with any technical questions or issues that you have, so just drop any comments or questions in the chat and Donald will help facilitate that. I'd also like to introduce our Director of Education, Brian Parker, who will be leading our Q&A session later on after we have our formal interview with our special guests. So if you have any questions for our wonderful guests, please just drop those in the chat as well, and Brian will facilitate those later. And lastly, we have Tavis Piatoli, who is not only our sports dietitian on the Taylor Hooton Foundation staff, but also one of our special guests today. So welcome, Tavis. And at this time, I would also like to introduce our very special guest for this session, which is all about strength and conditioning. Our first special guest is Haylie McCleney. She is a professional softball player, a silver medalist at the recent Tokyo Olympics, a two-time world champion, a four-time NFCA All-American, and an All-Me League Advisory Board member for us here at the Taylor Hooton Foundation. She played for the University of Alabama, finishing her career there as the program's all-time leader in batting average, on-base percentage, walks, and triples. Haylie is passionate about perfecting her craft, and this is where her love of strength and conditioning first started. She graduated with a degree in human performance from Alabama, and then later went on to complete a master's degree in exercise physiology from Florida Atlantic University, all at the highest academic levels. She is a member of the National Strength and Conditioning Association and is a certified strength and conditioning specialist. It is our honor to have you here, Haylie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tavis Piatoli is the Education Program Manager and Sports Dietitian at the Taylor Hooton Foundation. He currently serves as the sports dietitian and nutrition consultant for Fairchild Sports Performance in Houston. He is also an adjunct faculty for Concordia University of Chicago's Exercise Science Department, where he teaches graduate courses in vitamins, minerals, sports nutrition, and exercise nutrition for weight management. Tavis has previously been the sports dietitian for the New Orleans Saints, New Orleans Pelicans, and Tulane Athletics, and the Tulane Institute of Sports Medicine NFL Players Association Brain and Body Program. He currently works with a variety of MLB, NFL, collegiate, and high school athletes, designing nutrition programs to help them improve overall body composition and performance. Welcome, Tavis.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. All right, Miss Haylie, we are going to start off with you. Let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up and when did your love for sports start?
Yeah, I grew up in a really small town in Alabama. So we had 2,000 people, one caution light, one stoplight. So there really wasn't much to do in my hometown other than go outside in the backyard and play with my brothers. And we out of boredom, not really out of interest, we just decided to play whatever sport it was on that random day. It could have been football. It could have been hitting in the cage in the backyard. It could have been basketball. We skateboarded, we rode dirt bikes, we did all of these different activities. So, pretty much from the time that I was born, I was playing some sort of activity. And I really think that that's where a lot of my natural athleticism in my softball game evolved, was just getting outside and playing and doing a lot of those different things with my brothers. I signed up for T-ball when I was 5 years old and haven't really looked back on the softball stuff since then, but played basketball all the way through my senior year of high school. Sports were just ingrained in me from a really young age. Like I said, out of boredom, honestly, not really out of interest. And the more I started playing, the more I kind of fell in love with it and quickly realized that softball was kind of my niche.
So it sounds like your brothers had a big influence on that start. Were there any other influences that you had?
Yeah, my dad played college baseball at Samford University, which is a Division I school in Birmingham, like 20 minutes from our house where we grew up. And he was also, he got his degree in human performance as well and went the PE route, so the physical education route. And he was a PE teacher growing up. So he would always come home. I remember it was so funny. He was an elementary school PE teacher. He would always come home with like combs and hair ties from all of the girls in his class that they would just leave, and all of these different fun activities for us to do just to get his mind going. Like we were his test dummies for what could work in his classes. So yeah, I mean, he from or at the high school, it was our turn to practice. Like it was our turn to play catch in the backyard. So it was always my dad and my brothers, and then my mom was there to cheer us on the entire way. So pretty cool.
Yes, a full family affair. So fun. So what started off, like you said, is kind of filling time and something you could do as a family. At what age did you kind of really realize, I think I'd like to fully pursue sports?
Probably around the age of like 10. I would say like I knew sports were going to be kind of in the cards for me. I didn't know which sport it was going to be. I played basketball and softball, like I said, all the way through my senior year of high school. So I stopped growing quickly in like the seventh grade. So a few years after that, I was like, I should probably stick to softball, but loved basketball so much, wanted to play basketball originally in college. And then when I stopped growing, like around seventh grade, I was like, it's probably going to be the softball route for me. Never imagined that I would be an Olympian. I would, play at the professional level or anything like that. But I always said like I was just going to keep playing as long as I could, and kept making team after team and kept having good seasons. And so here I am playing the game at 27 years old. I never really dreamed it. So it's been a long time coming, but just a crazy, crazy journey. Cool story.
Very. So growing up in Alabama, did you always know that you wanted to attend and play for Bama?
No, actually. So I mentioned my love of basketball. This is actually a funny story. I mentioned my love of basketball. I always wanted to go play basketball for Pat Summitt at Tennessee. That was like my dream. Like Candace Parker is my hero, like still to this day. I think she's like one of the coolest women. And like I said, I just stopped growing, so that dream quickly died. But I was able to go on a recruiting visit for softball to the University of Tennessee, where Ralph and Karen Weekly, the head coaches there, introduced me to Pat Summitt before she passed away, before she had stepped down. And that was like the coolest moment of my life. And being able to meet her and talk to her and just ask her questions and pick her brain was awesome. So I originally wanted to go to Tennessee, and Tennessee was in the mix for a really long time. And then once Alabama came calling, I mean, the fact that it was, about an hour from my house, I didn't want to miss my little brothers continue to grow up. They were just getting into middle school and high school. And really, as soon as I stepped on campus at Alabama, it was an immediate like, this is where I belong. This is going to be a good fit, just from the family atmosphere that they create. I felt welcomed there. I felt like I was going to have an impact. And being able to represent my home state, give girls in that state someone to look up to and be like, hey, you can play at the highest level. You don't have to, go all of these different places. You can stay in your home state. You can be good in your home state. And again, play at the highest level. So for me, that was important, to be able to be a role model for all those little girls in the state of Alabama.
Oh, so wonderful. Tell us about your experience there.
It was the best 4 years of my life. I mean, that's, if I could sum it up in one sentence. I mean, just the lessons that you learn on the field. I think anybody's going to grow when they go into college. I think that's a given. But for me to be at a program that invested in my development as a leader, invested in my development as a human being, it was so much bigger than just softball those 4 years. And that's what I'm so grateful for my time at Alabama, was just the investment in me and all of my teammates, from the head coach to the entire athletic department. I mean, from the AD all the way down. They invested in us as human beings. Like, they didn't just care about what we could do for them on the field. They wanted us to leave that university and impact the world and change the world. And you felt that every single day when you got onto campus. So it was, like I said, best 4 years of my life. A lot of great memories. Obviously did some cool stuff on the field, but it's the off the field stuff that the more I'm out of it, the more that off the field stuff kind of sticks with me and stands out to me.
How would you say it specifically impacted you as a player?
As a player, just, I mean, playing at an elite level like that, you treat your body like it's a professional athlete's body. You're investing in your time, you're investing in your time, you're investing in your body in the weight room, nutritionally, all of that stuff. I mean, it's just all encompassing. And I think in college, I started to realize how much those things off the field, training wise and like preparation wise, really helped me perform on the field. I remember I gained 20 pounds of muscle my freshman year of college, which is like absolutely ridiculous. I was working out so much, I was eating so much, and I was like, I never knew I could be this strong. And that was such an empowering feeling for me. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do in the strength and conditioning realm, because I want kids to have access to that younger and younger and younger. You shouldn't have to go to an elite level program to have access to elite quality strength and conditioning, quality nutrition. It shouldn't have to be that way. It should be accessible for everybody. So that was really eye-opening for me. Like I said, just treating my body the way that it deserves to be treated, taking care of it, and realizing how much more energy and how more engaged I was mentally in the game just from taking that extra time, taking that extra preparation.
You were receiving both development, as you said, as a person and on the field. So at that point in time, as you were experiencing, enjoying those 4 years, what started to become the dream for you?
Really the Olympics. I mean, I was selected to the United States women's national team in 2014. So that was my sophomore year of college. And I quickly realized that we had a shot to get back into the Olympics. The softball was voted out. So after 2008, we missed 2012 and we missed 2016. We knew the Olympics were going to be in Japan in 2020, and baseball and softball is their biggest sport over there in that country. So we knew we had a shot. When I got on that team in 2014, there was a little bit of talk about the vote getting back in. And then it quickly, I think, just ignited something in a lot of us as players that were on the team at that time of, can I stick it out until 2020? Can I continue to play? What do those professional opportunities even look like? And I knew right away, I was like, I want to be an Olympian. Like, how freaking cool would that be to be in the Olympics, play for your country, hear your national anthem on an Olympic stage? I mean, it was literally a dream come true for me. And that started like right around my sophomore year. And it was interesting because I would see things from a very like zoomed in perspective of like, I need to be great for the University of Alabama. And I was great and I was super invested in that. But always in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm doing this right now in these 4 years for something bigger. I knew I wanted to go bigger. I knew I wanted to do something bigger and take the lessons I learned at Alabama onto a world stage. And so that was a big motivation for me to have success in my college career, but also in my professional career, to just prove that I can be one of the best players in the world. And how does, you ask yourself the question every day, what does a professional athlete do? Like, what decisions do I make? And that kind of guided my experience all the way through and led me to Tokyo and to a silver medal.
Yes. Speaking of the dreams, congratulations on bringing home the silver medal as a member of Team USA for the women's softball team this year. So exciting. So tell us all about that experience in Tokyo.
It was amazing. Thank you so much. It's been a whirlwind the past couple of months, just thinking about it. And to be honest with you, I don't know that I've really processed it all quite yet. I can't really put into words what it feels like to put on a USA jersey, to be called out and announced in the starting lineup, let alone like the leadoff batter, like first on the field, and hear your national anthem before the game. Like it sends chills down your spine. It makes you have so much pride in your country and what your country stands for, who you're representing. When you put on that jersey, you're putting on the jersey that represents your family, your friends, everyone that's been a part of your experience to get to that point. It's so much bigger than any one individual. And it was a whirlwind. It was a dream come true, but it also wasn't like anything I ever dreamed or imagined, because there were no fans. We weren't really allowed to do anything. We wore masks the entire time. We were getting COVID tested every day. And I'm very thankful that they created a safe environment for us, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to play the games, period. But it was a dream experience, but just not the way that I imagined it. So there were little things that we were going through, like we did COVID test in a spit tube. It wasn't a nasal swab. So we would literally wake up every day and spit into a tube. And that's one of the things that I'm going to think about in like so many years from now and be like, wow, what was your experience like? Well, I woke up and spit in a tube every single morning and then went to go play softball. Like just little things like that, being crammed in, the Olympic dorms where it's 2 bathrooms, it's 8 girls, it's 4 rooms, and the beds are made out of cardboard and all recycled material, like just crazy things, super cool things that only people that go really truly experience. It was the ride of a lifetime. I love my teammates. We have so many fun memories, so many fun stories from bus rides and hanging out in the village. And, we spent 2 years together really preparing for those moments too. So the whole journey itself was incredible, and definitely something I'm very thankful for.
Well, you clearly, obviously represented yourself, your country so amazingly, Haylie. And, one of the things you alluded to was about women's softball getting voted in. So it's not an event that is guaranteed at every Olympics. Did that make it even more special that they were able to be there and that you got to be a part of that?
Absolutely. For us, we had to be born at the right time. You know what I mean? Like there are so many players that were a little bit older than me that, got into, the 32, 33, 34 age range and just decided like, hey, my body can't do it anymore. And as female athletes, we don't have access to a lot of the professional resources that male athletes have access to. You see these MLB players and they go into these beautiful facilities. They have full-time strength coaches, full-time sports dietitians, full-time athletic trainers on staff. We do not have access to that. And in non-Olympic years, we are on our own 9 months out of the year, and we compete for 3 months. And those staff that come in are only there they're only there part-time. So we're really truly on our own. And for most people, it's like if you don't have access to elite level people and staff to help you along the way, and you try to do it all yourself and you don't have the right information, or you get your information from a bad source or anything like that, it can quickly, send your body kind of into a downward spiral. So for me, I'm only 27. So I knew all along, I was like, I'm going to be young enough. I got my degree in strength and conditioning. I know what I'm doing in that realm. Took multiple nutrition courses when I was in college. So I have that background. I have that knowledge. For me, I was trying to spread that to as many people as I possibly could, just to have them try to stick it out as long as they could. But we missed out on, like I said, that age range of players that just are a little bit older than me, that their bodies unfortunately couldn't make it. And I really do believe that was a lack of resources. And I think that's something that USA softball, and that's something that the softball community as a whole, I think, is getting a lot better on, providing us those year-round resources. But yeah, I feel very lucky to have been born in 1994 for the 2021 Olympic Games. That's for sure.
You talk about kind of having to take over your own training, throughout the times of the year, a majority of it. With the Olympic Games being delayed, how did that further impact your training?
Lord have mercy. Do you have an hour to talk about? No. I mean, it was wild. It was a wild experience. I think COVID for everybody was just like, you think you know what you want to do, and it's like, here comes COVID, and it's like you have to reroute everything. You have to adapt and adjust really rapidly. And for me, I'm used to having access to a full weight room, trap bars, squat racks, dumbbells, the whole thing. I didn't have a home gym. I lived in Tallahassee, Florida at the time. I was living in a college town in an apartment that was, barely big enough for me to sleep and eat in, let alone like have a full home gym in. So I had to quickly adapt and adjust. And that's when I kind of got into a lot of tempo work, like eccentric and isometric stuff, just to use my body weight and get a little bit more of a stimulus to maintain strength in that realm. I ordered stuff online, like I ordered a pop-up net so I could hit in. I ordered a tee. I had like I had my Easton's my bat sponsor, so I had them send me a bunch of stuff. I was like, I gotta hit, like, let's go. So I'm literally doing a body weight workout. I'm like holding an iso squat for like a minute at a time. And I'm hitting in the parking lot of my apartment complex in Tallahassee. And I was playing in the Olympics less than a calendar year later. Like, that's wild, right? Like I said, it was a dream come true, but I never would have imagined the way it all happened and what it looked like. And so when stuff like that happens, you just have to, put your head down, and something's better than nothing. You know what I mean? Like, anytime you move your body, anytime you get out and get more reps hitting or fielding or whatever it is, you're going to get better. And, less is sometimes more. It gave my body a break, but it also gave me a chance to really think deeper about what I was doing and adapting accordingly.
Yeah, clearly, obviously, you were able to put your adaptions to great use. And just speaking of training overall, can you just share a little bit about your training over, your whole career, how that has shaped you as an athlete, what role the training has really played?
Well, I think it's important to understand, and a lot of young athletes, I think, miss out on this, that the best tool that you have as an athlete is your availability. You're no good to a team, no matter how good you are, if you're not healthy enough to play. And so training for me has been injury prevention. It's been strength. I'm not a big kid. I wish you could see how tall I was right now on the Zoom. I'm 5'4". In high school, I weighed 115 pounds soaking wet. I was a twig. I was small. Couldn't hit for power, was fast, naturally fast. But once I got to college and started putting on some muscle and feeling strong, I felt like my legs were underneath me more. I was healthier. I had more energy. And I was starting to really see tangible results on the field of my performance elevating and increasing. I was hitting for more power. I led the team in triples throughout my career at Alabama, and I firmly believe that that's one of the reasons why, is that I just dove into getting as strong as I possibly could. And knock on wood, I mean, the most serious injury I've ever had was 2 years ago, and it was a meniscus. I had a torn meniscus. I just jumped the wrong way one time, and scope surgery. I was back playing in 4 weeks after surgery because of all the strength that I had done previously. I get injured. My recovery time to bounce back was even quicker, even as much time, as you would have been had you not been training and been building strength. So it's been a game changer for my career. Would not be an Olympian if I wasn't in the weight room. No questions about it.
So your love for training clearly goes even beyond for you as specifically as an athlete. You're a certified strength and conditioning specialist. What drew you to this? And tell us a little bit about the role of strength and conditioning.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really just something that I was passionate about. I saw how big of a difference it made in my personal career, and I wanted to learn as much as I could about it, from a selfish perspective, honestly, so I could be the best version of me. But I also wanted other people, other young women especially, to have that experience of, I can be strong. And there are so many body image issues that we've got going on in our culture right now, and it's like, I want to show young women that strong is beautiful. Like, it's amazing. It's when you feel confident, you feel strong, you feel like your legs are underneath you. Like, there's just something so empowering about that. And I want as many people as possible to have that experience. So I knew I wanted to kind of be in the college realm. And I was able to have a strength and conditioning job at Florida A&M University right after I finished up at Florida Atlantic with my master's, and I worked with all female sports there, which was awesome and amazing. And watching people fall in love with training, there's really nothing like it. There's really nothing like it. And for me now, I've kind of shifted and pivoted to working more with youth athletes and getting younger kids even more involved with it, because I really see a need there. But it's just like being strong is like the coolest thing ever. It's awesome. So I love it. I'm passionate about it. Like I said, seeing people fall in love with training is something it can't be competed with. It's so cool.
I love your message of strong is, and powerful is beautiful. That is just such a great message to be encouraging young female athletes, but also giving them the tools, as you mentioned, because not everybody has access. So it's great that you're giving them the tools to build such a great foundation. So Tavis, we're going to shift over to you, because we know what kind of goes hand in hand with strength and conditioning is proper diet and nutrition. And we know that is important for an athlete's overall success. So can you tell us how proper nutrition and diet fits in with an athlete's overall training? Why the two together, the proper nutrition and diet with the strength and conditioning, is the perfect recipe for success.
Yeah, it's like peanut butter and jelly or red beans and rice. They're match made in heaven. You can have one without the other, but they don't really work nearly as effective without the other. And when you really maximize both of these, it's like, wow, it almost looks like what the individual's doing is illegal, because when someone's nutrition is on point, and and I'll be a little biased because you can train as much as you want, but if your diet is poor, if you're not meeting your calorie goals, if you're not fueling with the right types of foods, then you're not going to truly maximize what you want to do in the weight room. So everything, there's a lot of pillars of strength, conditioning, performance. And when somebody says, I want to increase my performance, that's such a big word, right? Because does that mean you want to get faster, stronger? Haylie really talked a lot about strength, but there's so many, sleep, and there's so many factors. But with nutrition, that's kind of the catalyst. We call it the missing link, the secret weapon. When that's on point, then all the other pieces of the performance puzzle start to fall into place. You feel better, your energy levels are good, you reach body composition goals, strength and conditioning goals, you recover faster, you have less inflammation, so you're not as sore, and you don't get sick as often. So, and Haylie talked about that in regards to just, hey, she maybe had some minor injuries. Not that you can eat this and it's going to prevent it, but when you're stronger and you recover faster, your risk of a lot of those things, especially when you have certain nutrients like vitamin D, when that's normal, your risk for fractures goes down. So nutrition is so critical. And the youth athletes today, they don't think about this right now. There's so much on their mind and there's so much to balance. Diet is the last thing they think about.
So can you summarize the role of a sports dietitian for us, and specifically what does your work with an athlete look like entail?
Yeah, really over the last 10 years, the role of a sports dietitian has grown significantly, especially in the collegiate professional ranks. When I was at the Saints in 2006 and when I was with Tulane in 2002, we really weren't known of really what is it. We were just think of like as hospital staff, right? Dietitians are thought of as somebody who works in a hospital or does food service, where really sports nutrition started really coming on strong in the mid 2000s, early 2010. Now just every Division I school now has at least one. In some schools like the Alabamas, I'm going to have to mention the LSUs because that's where I went, and we're the competition with Haylie, but they have an incredible team of at least 3 or 4, because a lot of these schools have 5 and 6, 7 strength coaches, 6, 7, 8, 9 athletic trainers. And then they realize, well, wait a minute, our athletes are well taken care of on the rehab side. They're well taken care of on the strength conditioning side, but they're not eating well. So let's bring in people that can help them. So what really a sports dietitian does, it's very comprehensive. They're sitting down doing one-on-ones with athletes, assessing their intake and looking at their eating schedule, looking at their class schedule, looking at their practice schedule, and trying to help them maximize eating times. That's one of the biggest struggles I see with athletes is they're not eating at the right times. And a lot of that has to do with, we'll talk about that later, planning. Also, we build fueling stations in the collegiate professional setting. We want athletes to have access to food as quick as possible. One of the problems with college athletes and challenges they have is just, getting and eating on a schedule because they're busy. They might have to go straight from practice and run to a other side of campus to get to a class. And that window to eat might not be there for them. So if they don't have food with them, or they don't have easy access to something. So sports dietitians are, they're building systems inside of these collegiate and professional settings to where it helps athletes not only improve the quality of their food, but to give them access to good food so they're not missing out and they're hitting their calorie goals, or at least trying to help them understand how to hit their calorie goals. So there's a, you know, we also, so when I work with an athlete, I look at a lot of different things. I want to access or really assess their medical profile. I want to see, do they have food allergies? Are there any medical problems, medicine, anything that could impact what they eat? I want to know their training schedule, because you should not always eat the same amount of calories unless you do the same amount of work. So if an athlete like Haylie would, if a high volume day and she's burning 3,000 calories, she needs to eat 3,000 calories if she wants to maintain her weight. If she's trying to gain, we got to put her at least 3,500 plus. If it's a low volume day where she's only burning, let's say 1,800, she takes the day off, she's sitting around, she should not eat 3,500 calories, even if she's trying to gain weight, because that can cause weight gain too fast. So we do what's called nutrition periodization. I design nutrition programs based on activity. So I like to look at, give me your training schedule. I want to see everything you do. High school athletes, particularly baseball players and football players today, are doing way too much. Some of these kids are doing 5, 6, 7 hours a day of movement, and they're never going to be able to hit their calorie goals because their body's exhausted, their hormones are not balanced. So I look at that. And then the last thing is I want to see what they're eating. I want a 24-hour to 48, 1 to 2 days of a food log, so I can see patterns. I can see what they eat, when they eat, how much they eat. And right there, when I see that, I know instantly, hey, this is what we need to work on. And it's something small, like 40% of high school athletes don't eat breakfast. So we have to make sure, let's get your body in the habit of understanding why that's important. Little things like that is kind of what we do, is just assess and then develop an action plan to help them change behavior.
What common nutrition mistakes do you see that athletes make?
Yeah, I mean, it's all different at different levels. The young level, they don't have a plan. They're not even thinking about nutrition being important. They're thinking, man, if I do an extra workout, I'm going to hit my goals. When in reality, I'm like, all you're doing is burning more calories. It's time and time again, I've seen kids do 2.5 hours of strength and conditioning at school. They go to a practice, and then they go to a private trainer and lift again for another 90 minutes. And I'm like, okay, because they thinking lifting is building, which there is a part of that that's true. But again, if the nutrition is not good. So one of the mistakes is they think doing a lot more activity is beneficial, and there's a ceiling to that. Number two is they're skipping meals. That's a big common mistake, is they don't have a plan. They don't bring food to school. So they're missing out on there's a lot of high school athletes that their only meal for the day is lunch. So they're going to practice, their brain's tired from learning all day, their body's tired from being poorly fueled. Now they have to train and practice on a very limited calorie intake. So the risk of injury goes up, their risk of losing muscle goes up. And then also for my athletes that trying to gain weight and build muscle, they're sleeping too late on weekends. Saturday's like, hey, I'm tired all week. Let me catch up Saturday, Sunday. Let's sleep till noon. You just missed out on a lot of calories your body, could benefit from. Not that you don't have to get up at 6 or 7. It's just sleep, get your 8, 9 hours, and then start fueling your body properly. And then, of course, quality of food. That's a whole, it's a whole topic on just what is the purpose of the things that we eat. There's a lot of misconceptions about carbohydrates, fruits and vegetables, which sounds elementary. Those are your anti-inflammatory foods that a lot of young kids are replacing with more processed candy, cookies, and things that there's a place for that, but it shouldn't be the bulk of your diet.
Do you have some nutrition tips that you could share specifically for athletes who are in training?
Yeah, well, number one, you can maximize performance in a couple of ways. Meal timing, number one. So, for the athlete, I think it's important to time your nutrient or time your meals. That way you have what's called energy balance. This has actually been studied by Dr. Benardot at Georgia State. He looked at timing of meals, whether you give an athlete 3 big meals a day or 3 meals and 3 snacks. And what he saw is when you have those frequent meals every 3 to 4 hours, what we saw in the athletes is their body composition was better. So they had a higher muscle and less fat. So higher muscle to fat ratio, which means they're leaner. Number 2 is they had better energy. And number 3 is they recovered faster. So they felt better. Their vigor was better. Their mood was better because they were well fueled. They were never in a massive surplus and they were never in a big deficit. So they had what was called energy balance. They fueled throughout the day. That's one thing. Carbohydrates also, there's a lot of misconceptions on carbs just because of diets like ketogenic, low carb diets. So I see athletes that try to follow that diet to lose weight quickly. And they notice, wow, I have no energy. And for the person that's burning calories all day and moving 2 to 3 and 4 hours, carbohydrates are your fuel source. You're not going to be a power athlete and achieve success. And we've seen that in just about every study on a low carb diet. So we need good quality fuel. And I have a handout I give my high school kids that says state championship carbs, district championship carbs, miss the playoff carbs, right? And the state championship stuff is fruits, vegetables, whole grains, sweet potatoes, rice, pasta, things that are going to have sustainable energy. I do the same thing for lean protein. Lean protein obviously is important for muscle recovery, muscle growth. But another misconception at the young level is if I walk into a room of 100 kids that, hey, what do you do to gain weight? More protein. That's false. It's more calories. So we got to make sure quality protein, you never eat more than a gram per pound. Anything more than that's pretty useless. And then healthy fats for inflammation, things like avocados, obviously fish oil, tuna, salmon, things like that can actually help the body heal faster.
And then do you have some nutrition tips for us non-athletes, or as Dr. Hatfield said in our last session, I think she called us mini athletes, because she said everyone, does some type of physical activity. So do you have some tips you could share for us?
Yeah, for adults, it's really related to habits. I think that's the one big thing that people don't realize is, 70% of adults are trying to figure out how to lose weight. They're trying to do the opposite of what young athletes are doing. Most young athletes are trying to figure out how to get stronger and bigger, right? The adults are like, okay, we've done that. Now, 30, 20 years later, it's like, oh my gosh, look at myself. I've gained 40 pounds. So, and then we look at our habits. We sit a lot more as we get older. We do a lot less. We don't have as much time to take care of our bodies. So nutrition is really more habit-based. Look at, is there something that you're doing that is, because there's nothing magical about nutrition. We know the good foods. We know lean protein, obviously, avoiding or limiting fried foods, limiting fast food as much as you possibly can, fruits and vegetables, high quality carbs. But one thing to look at too is how do you organize your plate? That's one key thing. So 50% of your plate should be some sort of non-starchy vegetable, 25% of your plate, a quality carb like a sweet potato, brown rice, quinoa, and then 25% of your plate lean protein. At the same time, one thing that we need to think about that we don't do a lot of is we don't eat slow. Eating slow has been shown in the research to where when you eat a meal in 15 or 20 minutes versus 5 minutes, you're going to save about 300 calories a day. And that adds up pretty quickly to where you might gain 4 or 5 pounds a year, which you don't physically see. Like we look at ourselves in the mirror multiple times throughout the day. So you're not going to physically see that kind of, I call it invisible weight gain, because you're not going to see 1 pound per quarter. So eating slow can really be a pretty significant habit that can change the way we eat.
Thank you for that. And then one more, with Thanksgiving and the holidays around the corner, are there any specific suggestions you have for how we can still enjoy, the treats of the season, but also stay on track to be a little healthy mindset as well?
Yeah. And I mean, this is a time of year where people just struggle with eating, right? It's just like, it can be stressful. There's places where people are trying to achieve an outcome and accomplish a goal, but it's hard to do that because they're like, oh, I don't know what I can eat. So one thing I tell everybody, start the day with some movement, get up early, try to get some exercise and burn some extra calories. That way, if you're going to be eating more, that's fine. Number 2 is go into that meal. So for example, don't go starving to a Thanksgiving meal. That's one of the problems I see is when people go hungry or they might fast or they're just like, I'm not going to eat anything because I'm going to overeat. Most of the time it's an identity we've created. We already tell ourselves we're going to go into that meal and overeat, right? That's just like, oh, it's okay. It's like when you go on vacation. I'm on vacation. So the mindset is I can eat whatever I want. And then that spirals down into just poor habits that lead to the next week where it's tough to recover from that. It's almost like an injury. You binge, and then you wake up and you feel guilty, and it just spirals into something else. So, go into that meal feeling pretty balanced, eat a good breakfast, and then have one plate, set some rules and guidelines to where have some lean protein like turkey or ham, have a little bit of whatever you want. Don't avoid things because we have a habit of putting foods in categories, bad and good. Food's not good or bad. Food's not healthy or unhealthy. It's either nutritious or it's not nutritious. So even if it's perceived as not nutritious, have small amounts of it, take your time, and stop when you're full. So when you're no longer hungry, like when you get to the point where you're like, all right, I'm not hungry anymore, put your food down and try to go talk to people, get away, get distracted. Because if we get over consumed with what we're eating, we're going to eat everything on that plate. That's usually what we do anyway.
Do you have a favorite smoothie or healthy snack recipe that you could share with us that we could kind of incorporate in between our pie and cookies and other maybe not as nutritious foods?
I have this pumpkin pie smoothie I played around with and made a couple of times. Like, I love making pumpkin pie. Like, it is probably, it's not my favorite dessert like pie. I'm a chocolate person in and out, but things like pecan pie, apple pie, those are great. But pumpkin's probably number two. So I was like, how can I make a pretty good pumpkin pie smoothie? So the Libby's pumpkin pie, we start with that as a base. It's a really a lot of vitamin A, a lot of nutrients. It's pretty low calorie. So I take about a half a cup to a cup. It depends on how many you're making this for. But let's say you're making 1 or 2 smoothies. About 1 to 1.5 scoops of like a vanilla whey protein or protein powder. A half a cup to 1 cup of the Libby's pumpkin pie mix. 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. 1/4 of a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice or nutmeg. And then 1/4 of a cup of raw oats, 1/4 of a cup of either pecans or walnuts, your 1 cup of milk of choice. So that could be regular milk, almond milk, oat milk, and then 1 teaspoon of raw honey. And it tastes like a dessert. It's, something every year I make. I'm like, all right, I'm getting tired of my typical chocolate protein smoothie with peanut butter and blueberries or banana. Let's do something seasonal. And it's, to me, it's better than probably going to a coffee shop and getting a 500-calorie sugary pumpkin spice latte.
Sounds delicious. Thank you so much for sharing that. We will include the recipe in the show notes so that everyone can make one of these delicious pumpkin pie smoothies over the holidays. So thank you very much, Tavis, for sharing that recipe. So speaking of Thanksgiving, the holidays coming up, Haylie, do you have any special traditions that you're looking forward to this year?
I'm just looking forward to eating, to be honest with you. No, it's after the crazy, past couple of years that it's been training for the Olympics and all of that, family time has become just one of the big priorities for me in my life right now. So to be able to spend time with family and really just relax a little bit, have a couple of days where you're not doing anything at all, just relaxing and enjoying the company. I think I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be special. So that's pretty much what my entire November and December look like, if you want me to be honest. It's just enjoying some time with the family and relaxing.
Well, that's great. You've certainly earned that, and we hope you do get to enjoy all of that to the fullest for sure. So the whole premise of our All Me League is living and competing without the use of appearance and performance enhancing substances. Thank you so much for serving as an incredible role model on our advisory board, because you are an example of achieving the pinnacle of success the right way. And, we want to encourage everyone that they can accomplish all of their goals the right way, without the use of these substances and through proper training and nutrition. Can you share with all of us what All Me means to you, how it shaped you as an athlete, and why you feel it is so important?
Yeah, I mean, All Me is just an empowering statement of I did this on my own. I didn't try to shortcut anything. I decided to slow cook my career instead of, throw it in a pressure cooker or an instant pot, right? Like it's willing to invest in your process as an athlete, willing to continue to get better every day and watch those small additions just add up over time. That's what All Me means to me. I look at my career and my Olympic experience was 22 years in the making. I didn't wait until the last minute and try to get a boost from some outside substance or anything like that. It was just the consistent work over the course of time. And when I look back on that, I know that that's something that I can hang my hat on, and it's something that I can be proud of, to say that I did it the right way and was a lot better for it. So pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we are very proud of you and very proud to have you as an advisory board member, which includes being a role model. And what does being a role model to young athletes, mean to you? And what encouragement, advice could you offer a young aspiring athlete?
I think especially as a female athlete, being a role model is probably one of the most important things for me because, we don't make $1 million a year. We don't, get the spotlight that a lot of other male athletes get. So we don't do it for fame. We just do it so we can leave the game just a little bit better than we found it. So being a role model, that's what we're trying to encompass, is giving the next generation of softball players a platform is to be successful, to empower them to continue to go after and chase them more opportunities. We feel like we're just laying the groundwork for our sport. We're laying the foundation for other kids to come in and be successful in it. So that's what being a role model means to me. It's not anything pressure wise. It's just like you feel a strong sense of responsibility, because when I go into any of my games now at this stage of my career, I know that I'm going in playing for something so much bigger than myself. And that's more empowering than anything.
And any advice or encouragement you could offer aspiring athletes?
Just keep going. I mean, longevity is such a beautiful thing. Like, don't give up. Keep going. Keep investing in yourself. Be a good human being. I think better human beings make better athletes. And so the more you can invest in yourself from a leadership perspective, from a teammate perspective, and really just committing to investing in yourself, you're going to be a lot better off. So just don't give up. Just keep trying to be the best version of you that you can be. Treat people right along the way, and success will find you.
Amazing advice from, such a great role model who lives that. So tell us what's next for you.
What's next for me?
Mhm.
Right now is, like I said, hanging out with the family for a little bit, but I'm actually signed on to play in season 3 and season 4 of Athletes Unlimited, the women's professional league. That's kind of taken off in the past couple of years. So I'm really excited about that opportunity, and looking forward to competing some more with Team USA as well. So all of that, still playing, still hanging on to it, having a good time. No plans to retire anytime soon. Still feel like I'm getting better, which is crazy to think. But that makes me really excited. The cool thing about softball is you can never be perfect at it. So there's always room for improvement, and I'm still hungry and still wanting to get better and continue to improve. So I'm excited about where my career's headed, and can't wait for the next time I get to step on the field.
We're excited. We're going to be cheering for you every step of the way. So tell us how our audience can learn more about you. Where can they find you? How can they follow you?
Yeah, so this is great timing, because I just my team and I just revamped my website, so it's HaylieMcCleney.com. On that website, you can find ways to get in contact with me and my team. You can see where I'm headed for camps and clinics. If I'm in your area, please register. All my important announcements are on that website, as well as some blog posts if you're interested in strength and conditioning for softball athletes. And there's some nutrition articles, I think, as well on there. And then just follow me on social media. Twitter and Instagram is HaylieMac8, HaylieMac 8. And I am on TikTok now. It's just at Haylie McCleney. I think I have like 2 followers. So hopefully you guys can boost my followers now that I'm officially on TikTok. I delayed it as long as possible. But yeah, social media on my website. Best place to keep in touch with me. And yeah, just send me whatever you want. I'm an open book. Love to give advice if you guys need it. So please reach out to me and my team, and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. We will definitely include all of the links to that in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Haylie. It was such a delight to get to visit with you. So happy to have you here. And Tavis, we're going to kind of switch over to you. Tell us a little bit about what you cover in an all-me assembly, which is one of the education programs of the Taylor Hooton Foundation that we deliver in middle schools, high schools, colleges, moms clinics, youth clinics. Can you tell us a little bit about what you cover in the nutrition and supplement safety program?
Yeah, this is a program that really focuses on 2 aspects. The supplement safety piece we kind of go over first. We really want to, because a lot of young athletes today are looking for the answer. They think a shortcut is a dietary supplement. Can I take a pill or a powder? And it's really important because anywhere from 18 to 25% of dietary supplements could be spiked with steroids or a prohibited substance, meaning a substance that is banned for an athlete to take because either can cause, a significant side effect or it can cause significant performance enhancement advantage. So, this is one thing that we go over, things like the dangers of energy drinks. We go over the dangers of looking for prohibited substances and things like pre-workout supplements, things that have a lot of stimulants that can cause the heart rate to be elevated. Also, we go over protein powder, creatine, things that are commonly consumed. We want to give them some education about what does the science say about these things, but most importantly, how to do this the right way. And really, the nutrition side of the program, I kind of go over how do we do this with good nutrition? What's the purpose of food? What does food do for us? And I know sometimes that might sound elementary, but food is pretty powerful in what it can do for our energy levels, how we feel the next day. Also, we'll talk about meal timing. We'll talk about the importance of breakfast, and we'll kind of close out on really how to have a plan. How do you develop a plan around all of this? And that could be like, hey, take 15, 20 minutes on a Sunday and prep some snacks. And that way you bring that food to school. And by the time you get to practice, you're really well fueled. And then we'll kind of show you some pictures and things of what your plate should look like and how to really organize your plate for performance.
Can you tell everyone how they can get more information to possibly schedule an All-Me assembly? And if they have any questions, how they can reach you?
Yeah, the best way is just reach out to us. Our email address that goes to our team is info@taylorhooton.org. Now make sure that's HOOTON.org. And then if you need to reach me, it's tavis.piatoli@taylorhooton.org. So I know we'll have that in the show notes and people to see, because saying my name is going to be a lot more difficult to spell by hearing it versus seeing it in the show notes.
Yes, we will include all of that. And for general resources, everyone is welcome to always visit taylorhooton.org for lots of great information and resources. So now I would like to turn it over to our Director of Education and Director of Q&A, Brian Parker. I believe we received some questions in ahead of time for our two guests.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. I got a couple questions. Thanks for the time. Thanks for both of our guests for hanging out. These talks for me are always just fun to listen to personally. Today is no exception just because of who we got. I had a chance to do an Instagram live with Haylie back when she joined the board, and I became a fan that day, right? Just she's a beast of an athlete, so that's cool. And also, Tavis, our other guest, I talk to every single day, and it's a chance for me to grill him in a public setting, which is also fun, right? So a question real quick, just before we wrap this up for each of you. I'm going to start with you, Haylie. Ever since our time that we talked, I've really kept, an eye on your career, not in like a weird stalker way. That's not what I'm saying, right? But like, you're involved in a lot of different initiatives, right? There's a lot of things you do even outside of just, playing on Team USA and things like that. One of the things that I saw you were recently a part of, it's called the Breakthrough Series, which is a joint effort between MLB and USA Softball. I want to learn a little bit more about that. Can you tell us what was involved with that and what was your role with that as well?
Yeah, so fortunately, first of all, thank you for being a follower of mine, not in a creepy way, but I appreciate you keeping up with my career and what all the cool things that I get to do. We're fortunate to have USA Softball has a really good relationship with Major League Baseball. And so what Major League Baseball has done, and it's a really, really awesome initiative, is they've been investing in baseball and softball in inner city communities through different areas. They'll have youth academies. So like in Kansas City, they'll have a Royals Youth Academy. In Cincinnati, they'll have a Cincinnati Reds Youth Academy. And what they do is they provide elite level instruction to inner city kids that wouldn't otherwise have access to the elite levels of club softball or baseball, club travel ball, all of that stuff. So they're really bringing the game into areas that it needs to be brought into. And what the Breakthrough Series is, it's a chance for the standout athletes in those communities in RBI programs and youth academies that Major League Baseball is running. It's a chance for those girls are flown out to, we had it in the Jackie Robinson Training Center here in Vero Beach a few weeks ago. They're flown in. They get to stay, their parents can come out, and they get basically like the most star-studded Olympic college superstar staff to work with them in a really small group setting. Like I think there were only like 36 maybe athletes there this year, but we had myself, Aubrey Monroe, another Olympian, Jenny Finch, Odyssey Alexander. You had a star-studded staff working with these kids. And it's a long process. It was 3 days, and it's like 8 hours a day. Like, it's crazy, but they get elite level on the field instruction, but there's also a mentorship side to it as well. So these kids get elite level character development, skill development, and it really empowers them to go change their communities. And it's just a really cool opportunity for us to be able to give back to kids that otherwise wouldn't have that level of instruction. So it's pretty cool, and I love being a part of that every single year. It's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool, not only opportunity, but I think at the core of it, an important conversation in equity in sport that needs to be discussed as well. So just another reason that you are the role model that you are. So thanks for telling us about that. Tavis, one quick question for you before I leave. It's a two-part question. All right. I'm sitting here in my office watching leaves fall off the trees because the season is changing. It's getting colder. Number one, I'm dreading cleaning all that up, first of all. But number two, this is kind of the time of year where like people start to get sick, right? You hear flu season, all that kinds of stuff. So I'm wondering, I don't think that there's really diets and foods out there to prevent illness. I don't really have that question. But are there things that we could take, or tips, maybe food to boost our immune system is really my main question. And my second question, which is completely unrelated, the Falcons and the Saints played a week or so ago. Could you remind our listeners who won that game? I'll give you the floor.
Oh man, well, I forgot. I don't think I watched that Falcons and Saints game just because it didn't go the way I thought it should. But congrats to the Falcons. So we'll give you
one every now and then.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. And then yes, there are foods really from an immune standpoint. The immune system is complicated. It's not like, hey, you eat this and boom, you have this great immune system, right? There's a lot of things that we need to do to help with immunity. Exercise is one of them. Sleep is one of them. Being in an environment that is not surrounded by pollutants is another one. But from a food perspective, fruits and vegetables are going to have the highest vitamin and mineral content. They're going to have antioxidants. They're going to have what's called phytochemicals that can boost immune system. Also things like elderberry. There's good evidence-based studies to look at things like elderberry. I'm a big fan of something called N-acetylcysteine. That's a dietary supplement that can boost glutathione levels, which is probably one of the most powerful antioxidants. But something that there's a few very versatile nutrients that most people are deficient in. Omega-3, which is only thought of, just take fish oil, it reduces inflammation. Omega-3, it's used to treat concussions. It's used to reduce inflammation. It's used to prevent heart disease. It's used to help with a lot of different brain conditions, but it's also an beneficial nutrient along with vitamin D. Vitamin D is something that, especially now in the wintertime, 70% of the country has vitamin D levels probably below 30 nanograms per deciliter, meaning you're deficient. And when you get below 20 and 10, it's really a risk for a lot of different things. So that is a respiratory vitamin. That's also a vitamin, with things like flu and COVID. It's an extremely important nutrient to get your blood levels tested. And you want them above 50. So if those things are above 50, you're good. If they're below 50, supplementation, because there's not a lot of food sources there besides milk and fatty fish and things like that. Mushrooms, very limited. So yeah, there are foods and nutrients that we can consume that can improve the quality of our immune system and how it works.
Makes sense. I think oftentimes with food, we, just like a lot of things, we kind of react to stuff instead of thinking about the preventive side of things. But that,
there's no need to go like take emergency packets and vitamin C and pop those. That's not going to have any impact on outcomes of flu.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful. And I had a whole bunch of other questions, but they're mainly just a roast of you. So maybe next Power Lunch, we'll just have a THF staff roast, but that's all the time we got. So that's my questions. I'll pass it back to you to wrap it up, Amy.
Okay, thank you so much, Brian. And thank you again to our very special guests, Haylie and Tavis. Thank you to everyone viewing. Thank you to the THF staff. And this concludes our Series 1, Women Who Power Lunch, but we are excited that we will be bringing back a continuation, and we will be having Series 2 of Women Who Power Lunch, which will be launching in January of 2022. So we look forward to lunching and learning with you. Thank you so much, and have a very happy Thanksgiving and holiday season from all of us at THF.